What is love? You probably have some idea what love is, or at least what you think it is. It's a word that gets passed around constantly. We use it to describe our affection towards things or towards people. But have you ever stopped and really thought deeper about the concept of love? About the word we use to express it? Today, we're going to explore love. According to the dictionary, love can carry several meanings. An intense feeling of deep affection, a deep romantic or sexual attachment to someone, affectionate greetings conveyed on someone's behalf, or a great interest or pleasure in something. So, love can be something we feel or something we express towards people, objects, or even ideas. John loves his football. Jessica loves her pet dog. Peter loves food. We might even sign a letter with love or call someone love as a term of endearment. And of course, we use it to describe our feelings toward another person, deep affection or romantic attraction. There are many kinds of love we can express, but for this video, we'll be focusing on one type in particular, romantic love, the kind shared between couples and how that idea has changed and been promoted to us over the years. In the 1600s through to the 1800s, the phrase making love didn't mean what it does today. It referred to courtship, the act of wooing someone, showing affection and pursuing a future together. Courtship was a period in which a couple developed romantic feelings leading up to marriage. It was a behaviour intended to persuade someone to marry or form a committed relationship. Since marriage was seen as the foundation of a relationship, making love or courting was roughly the equivalent of what we call dating today. The meaning began to change slowly around the 1920s, but by the 1960s, during the sexual revolution, it had undergone a complete transformation. The term making love was rebranded to mean sexual intercourse. The free love movement and the resexualization of relationships reached an all-time high. Society began openly discussing and exploring topics once considered private: sexuality, cohabitation, premarital sex, and the rising influence of the feminist movements. No longer connected to courtship, making love had been recast as purely physical act, and that's how it remains today. It used to go courting to marriage. Now, the courting stage is brief, and marriage has largely been replaced by relationships. It seems marriage itself is slowly being phased out. So the question is, if a simple phrase like making love can change so radically from courtship to sex, has love itself gone through the same transformation? Growing up, we're surrounded by portrayals of romantic love, in books, movies, and even through the relationships we see around us. We learn early what love is supposed to look like. But how can anyone know if what they are feeling is real love or just an illusion? What's the standard we test that by? If we never look deeper, we simply accept the definitions we're given, and those aren't always the right ones. You've probably heard of the honeymoon stage. It's the early stage of a relationship where emotions run high, full of excitement, passion, and attraction. You can't stop thinking about the other person. You get butterflies and you want to spend every moment together. During this stage, couples tend to overlook each other's flaws in favour of the connection. That's because dopamine and other feel-good chemicals in the brain are driving the experience, making everything seem perfect even when it's not. That's where the saying, "love is blind," comes from. This stage can last weeks, months, or even a few years, but it's meant to fade. Eventually, the dopamine settles, comfort replaces excitement, and both people begin to notice each other's flaws. That's normal. In fact, that's where the real relationship begins. As the couple sees each other more clearly, differences come to the surface. Arguments, disagreements, and tension. This is the stage where many relationships fall apart. And I believe that's largely because of what we're constantly shown. The media's idea of a perfect relationship. We're fed endless images of the flawless couple, always in love, always happy, always passionate. Stories usually end right after the wedding or right at the peak of the honeymoon stage, and we're told that's love. But the truth is, the media never shows what comes next. It doesn't teach us that real relationships take effort. that love sometimes means working through hard things. Instead, we've been taught that if things get difficult, if that spark fades, then they must not be the one. So people keep searching for that next rush, instead of learning what love actually is. So what actually happens after that honeymoon stage ends? When the butterflies fade and the flaws start showing, what we're left with isn't just differences in personality, it's the meeting of two people's histories. Every person brings something unseen into a relationship, the experiences that shape them, the fears they carry, the ways they've learned to cope. And those things, whether we realise it or not, play a massive part in how love either grows or breaks down. We all carry trauma, though we only tend to talk about the extreme. Extreme trauma might come from horrific or life-altering events, things witnessed or experienced directly. But minor trauma is much more common. It might look like your parents separating, or getting punished for speaking up as a child, so you learn to stay quiet to keep the peace. That coping technique may have helped you then, but you carry that into adulthood without realising it. These minor traumas shape every one of us. They influence how we think, how we act, and how we love. That's why I don't really believe in labels like introvert or extrovert. I think some people simply had negative experiences that made them more avoidant, while others didn't. People pleasers, for example, learn to compromise themselves to avoid conflict. Every behaviour has a root. Have you ever met someone and instantly felt a deep connection, like you've known them forever? That's not just chemistry. Deep down in your subconscious, there's recognition. That person's trauma mirrors your own. Their wounds and coping patterns resonate with yours, and your subconscious senses their familiarity. So in a way, that feeling is true. You do know them, because you see parts of yourself in them. But after that honeymoon stage fades, those mirrored traumas often start to clash. The same similarities that once drew you together begin to cause friction. And that's the crossroads, the point where you either choose to grow together and work through the pain, or let those wounds tear you apart. This is the stage where a relationship either breaks apart or where real love begins. The idea of love has been distorted, largely thanks to the media and modern movements that redefine what love looks like. I can't help but dissect movies when I watch them. I notice how often they present love as instant, effortless, and emotional rather than genuine, tested, and lasting. Take a film I watched recently, called From Prada to Nada. It's a romantic drama that follows two sisters navigating relationships after losing everything. Throughout the movie, one sister gets involved with a man who clearly takes advantage of her attention, while the other, who's never experienced love before, develops feelings for a lawyer she begins to work for. The first sister gives herself over to a college teacher, only to later discover he's married and was using her for fun. The second sister runs from her feelings, sabotaging her relationship with the lawyer out of fear. By the end, both sisters experience what they believe to be love. One learns that her version of love was one-sided and deceptive. The other, after rejecting the man who cared for her, accepts his proposal when he returns, and the story closes with their marriage, smiles, and a new home. But everything unfolds in just a few months. The girl barely knows the guy, and the film ends there, happily ever after. On the surface, it's sweet and satisfying, but if you look deeper, what actually changed? The sister who had never experienced love is now in a lifelong commitment, but where was the growth? Where was the foundation? Was it truly love, or simply attraction packaged as love? The guy in the movie, once rejected the first time, moves on almost instantly to the first girl he's introduced to, and ends up engaged to her not long after, only calling it off when the main girl confesses her love to him not long after that. That's the message we see repeated over and over again. Movies and media teach us that love equals chemistry, charm, and a few emotional moments, not commitment, patience, or sacrifice. If love is just attraction, then love lasts only as long as the honeymoon stage. And that's exactly what we're being taught, that love is fleeting, replaceable, and entirely based on how someone makes you feel in the moment. Movies tend to show this same story quite often, and it's probably the most common plotline in romantic films. The couple might face problems and struggles while getting together, but eventually they overcome them, fall in love, and that's their happily ever after. Books follow a similar pattern. As part of the 1960s sexual revolution, lust replaced love. Sex became the defining factor in one's love life. If someone wasn't having sex, were they even in love? Pick up nearly any romance book from Kmart and you'll find it filled with lustful content, giving 50 Shades a run for its money. Yet this is what's now promoted as love. Other movements like free love and the LGBT movements popularise sayings such as "make love not war" and "love is love." But these movements blur the line between what love truly is and what lust is. They change how people think about love, turning it from a deep, selfless bond between two people into something purely sexual in nature. They tie in sexual orientations and acts under the blanket term of love, then criticise anyone who disagrees, which, ironically, is not an act of love at all. Over time, this has slowly changed people's personal definition of love, while the dictionary definition remains the same. Many people would agree you can have sex without love, and you can have love without sex. Biblically, they were designed to complement one another, but they are not the same thing. Sex is not love, and love is not sex. They complement, but they do not replace each other. The same goes for attraction. Attraction is a part of love, but love is not merely attraction. Again, they complement, but do not replace one another. And that's where one of the biggest misconceptions come in, the idea of falling in love. People say it all the time, but how can you fall into something that's meant to be created? Falling is accidental. It just happens. But real love isn't something you just trip into by chance. It's something you build. You choose it, you nurture it, and you grow in it. Because if love is something you can fall into, then it's also something you can fall out of. That's why so many relationships crumble the moment the feeling fades. Because it was never built, only fallen into. The world treats love as a fleeting emotion or a spark of chemistry, but biblical love is entirely different. It's not a rush, it's a commitment. It's not passive, it's intentional. Love isn't just found by chance, it's formed through choice. It's not something you stumble upon, it's something you become. The Bible speaks extensively about love, and it provides a standard far beyond what the world promotes. From the very beginning, God designed men and women to complement each other in marriage, forming the foundation for romantic love. Genesis 2:18 and 24 says, "The Lord God said, 'It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh.'" This shows that God designed love to be unifying, complementary, and covenantal, not just a feeling or attraction, but a lifelong partnership where two individuals support and complete one another. Throughout the Bible, we also see the consequences of turning away from God's design for love. For example, Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed in Genesis 19 because their society had rejected God's love and pursued sexual immorality. This demonstrates that love is meant to be relational and selfless, not purely sexual or self-serving. God's judgment in this story contrasts his design for love with the consequences when it's distorted. Ephesians 5 verse 25 to 33 says, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the assembly of believers and gave himself up for her. Each one of you must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband." Ephesians 5:28 says, "Husbands should love their wives as their own bodies." Husbands are instructed to love their wives as Christ loved the assembly, giving himself up for her. Wives are called to respect their husbands. These verses show that biblical love is sacrificial, protective, and relational, not based solely on attraction or sexual desire. Colossians 3 verse 19 says, "Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. 1 Peter 3:7 says, "Husbands must give honor to your wives, treat your wife with understanding as you live together." These verses also teach that biblical love is selfless, protective, and sacrificial. It is active, not just emotional. Husbands are called to serve and care for their wives, while wives are called to respect and support their husbands together, creating harmony, trust, and unity. 1 Corinthians 13 verse 4 to 8 says, "Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres." This passage explains the character of true love, both in romantic relationships and in life. Biblical love is not selfish or fleeting. It is enduring, kind, forgiving, and seeks the good of the other. It is built on commitment, not attraction or infatuation alone. Just as husbands are called to love their wives sacrificially, wives are also tasked with showing love through respect, support, and gentle spirit. This love is not about appearances or fleeting attraction, but comes from the heart, expressed in kindness, self-control, and devotion. Biblical love is mutual and covenantal. Both partners actively seek the good of the other, reflecting Christ's love in their actions and commitment. It's enduring, selfless, and equal, not based on physical desire or momentary feelings. And when we understand love in this way, we can truly begin to see what real love really is. Biblical love also points to God's ultimate example in Christ. John 3:16. "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life." Romans 5:8. "But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." Jesus showed what true love looks like: selfless, sacrificial, and unconditional. A Christian's faith is built on Christ, the cornerstone of love. Through him, we learn to love selflessly, to forgive, and to persevere even when the other person does not deserve it. True romantic love flows from this same principle. It is mutual, selfless, and enduring. It is a choice to build together, to forgive flaws, to sacrifice for one another, and to overcome challenges, not just a fleeting feeling or attraction. Every act of patience, every sacrifice, every moment of understanding in a marriage is a reflection of God's love. When we give love this way, it transforms relationships, families, and communities. True love is not transactional or selfish, it is enduring, sacrificial, and rooted in God. So, what is love really? Love is selfless. Love is equal. It's not a transaction, not a fleeting feeling. Love is a choice, a sacrifice, a commitment to build something lasting together. Love frees, love transforms. It protects, trusts, and perseveres through flaws, conflict, and trauma. But the world is changing what love means right before our eyes. What was once a covenantal, selfless bond is now often reduced to lust, attraction, and convenience. Desire is called love. Selfishness is called love. And if the world can redefine love, what else can it redefine? What does this mean for marriage, for relationships, for faith, and even for salvation, which is built on love? True love is nothing like that. True love is sacred. It's patient when the world rushes. It forgives when pride whispers to walk away. It builds when everything else falls apart. Love isn't something you fall into. Love is something you create. It grows, it deepens. It can hide quietly, waiting for life to reveal it. And when it's real, it's unmistakable, it's unbreakable, it's eternal. So ask yourself, am I chasing feelings or am I choosing love, the way God designed it? Love is not a moment, it is a mission. It is not a label, it is life lived together. And when we follow Christ, we see what true love really is.